Today.
WHA is a special feature of Talk Today, jointly produced by the National Museum and Radio Cayman, a language, history, and culture show. Remember, it's every third Friday on 89.9 and 93.9 FM. See what I'm saying? Begins right now.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. That's probably one of my favorite songs. Onesie boat in this sound, boy, onesie boat in this sound.
So that's about this second or third national anthem we go.
That's the rest be national anthem.
Popular folk song.
Come on, Mr. Loxley, can you sing it? Onesie boat in this sound, boy, onesie boat in this sound. When you talk about blue squab head all around. Aye. Listen, two things in life that you should love, West Bay should be the top of the list. Ray Bankum.
After that singing, I'm not sure.
I didn't say I could sing good, Remember, it says
what you keep singing for? Who? Okay. That's why I keep asking you, who encourages you to sing?
Oh, no, you said that. Well, that's the other than Ray Bankum joining us. We have the excellent company of Mr. Loxley Banks. You get to see the indomitable spirit, the indelible sort of, presence. He lives with us always, and Mr. Loxley, from the historical perspective to the championing of our culture. It's good that we can have the baton in hand. We were there for it to be passed. So, thanks for taking a few minutes out of what is always a very busy day for you, and sitting and giving these young bucks a little bit of counsel.
Yeah, well, and we wanted to get Luisito on here because he spent so much time in this project, that is arena. The eradication of the mosquitoes. But he had a maritime marine project going today that you could not pry him around, pry him away from. In fact, he may be looking out in the water glass now, seeing if there's anything down below on the bottom.
Well, anybody know the Bugman know that last time he was to come on with us, and we caught up with him. He said, boy, I would like to be there. He said, but tell him Bugman gone fishing. But I hooked up, got a nice wahoo though,
Yeah, he told me that same story this morning, an hour and a half ago.
Yeah, so it is, it is one of those things I think when we recognize that to be able to look with such a healthy sense of respect and appreciation for who we are in our history, and to recognize that the Cayman discussion cannot unfold without mosquitoes.
Well, that and it seems like people are forgetting about it, huh? This is one of those just in our
I was reminded Tuesday night.
That's true.
Last night too.
But I mean, I think probably younger generation don't appreciate just going out. Some of the things we're able to do, like at night, like after dusk. I mean, and that's just within our lifetime. That was a major.
And this is
mosquitoes were a major part of our.
But that's the thing, right? And maybe Mr. Loxley, both that I remain respectful, but I also remain accurate. Mosquitoes in the midday, after sun up, unless you were up near the mangroves or somewhere about, you never really had a great issue unless you were up in the highland.
Yeah, normally if you were where the sun was shining real hard,
you were good.
But if you got on in a little cool environment, they would come up. Wherever they were hiding.
Well, we're gonna play a clip, and it was the magistrate, and he talked about being inside whether he was in the courthouse or I think the town hall at the time too, and he had to have black flag. He said he had to have that black flag that we talked about in the other show, burning and basically
in the
engulfed in it.
Yeah, in the churches, and most of the churches back then had Sunday evening services, and even to the week. Yes, you would have to have black flag, and I think there was another thing called smut, which I think preceded black flag. And smoke pans and all the stuff that you pick up in the grass piece to feed them.
And if you can review a couple of stats that we had, rainy season was the peak season, so May to sometime November. And they Bodden Town, the 1974 Bodden Town light trap had caught 793,103 mosquitoes in one night.
I wonder who counted them.
That's what we were talking about.
That was a part of MRCU. That was a daily, because there were traps all over the island. And they checked them and they counted the mosquitoes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I think
Yes.
we had Miss Consuelo. Consuelo used to work there, and she said she had to count them. She was one of the people that would count them. And then the poor goat that he used for bait. Apparently they had a goat out. They screened in, but he was out. But that record was twice the record in the USA.
wow.
So-
Is that because we had 2 people counting?
I don't know.
So
I don't know if that count was challenged either.
But you know, if you speak of the USA, what they call it, of mosquitoes, the swarm of mosquitoes that I experienced up there were much bigger.
Yeah.
They were very much bigger because you get down,
This is in Florida.
you get down around years ago what was called Old Cutler Road, and Caymanians used to go down there looking crabs.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Looking crabs because
I was seeing white crabs.
seeing white crabs. Their Old Cutler Road kind of followed basically it would be more or less the southwest coastline of, if you leave Miami going south, but it wound in between some farmland, and this was prime habitat for the crabs.
Marshy.
And we could go down there on a drizzly afternoon with our sacks and baskets and just take a piece of, actually I guess it was 1 by 2. 1 by
And
2.
just rake 'em up?
And just rake them in the basket.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a...
But hold on, just a sidetrack. Now, this is crabs. I'm crab freak, you know.
I know.
I would say native. The Floridians, did they?
No, they
Didn't bother with them?
They did not bother them. And I
Interesting,
mean, yeah, they were
Thought we were freaks.
all over, and they were big ones.
Yeah,
The ones I saw down there was way big, and whatever I experienced along 7 Mile Beach there, many.
They're so old because nobody was taking them.
Yeah.
You feel like you miss something, huh?
Getting all excited.
Hey, I almost want to joke that there's a different kind of crabs from... But as you get into the clip, though, I was thinking that the whole notion of the daylight and the wind and the like, right? Whether it's midday.
Yeah, because I mean, my experience with it, it's like after dark or when it gets dark.
Yeah. Well,
but you had the day biting ones. I've experienced that a couple of times. There.
Approaching dark and in the morning.
Yeah.
But even, we used to experience them sometime out on the reef running seas.
Yeah. But dust bite, I wonder if that's where that came from.
What's that?
In West we say, oh, it's dust bite, dawn and dust bite.
I couldn't speculate.
Hadn't heard that one before.
Yeah.
Couldn't speculate on that.
You've heard of it, right?
Yeah, well, you refer to the West Bay bite.
Yeah.
But bite is a geographical term.
Yes.
That's just a little etch in the coast.
But it's at in the afternoon when it's sunset and dust bite.
Yeah.
Right? It's one quick word.
bite.
We got a dawn.
But he talked about being out on the reef, and we tried to figure out what's the range of them. We had one caller say that they were coming in. They know when they were getting close to Cayman when the mosquitoes started. I think that might have been 2 miles out or something. He was saying.
Well, that might be a little far fetched.
Yeah.
But because I'm not saying that they didn't reach out there to the white holes or the edge of the black, but I can't bring to memory out there yellow tailing off on the black, experiencing any mosquitoes. Most of the time there was a light breeze blowing. So
No problems, yeah. But look at the difference, right?
There's different breeds of one too that have different ranges.
Yes.
That's it. So the Florida, and even now we'll see that, it seems that, but since the introduction of the GMOs here, you notice the size, you notice that they're biting whether it's a hurricane blowing or the hottest of the days, right? And the time of the day, and it's a different sort of approach.
They're biting in the day.
Yeah.
But my father was saying, they don't. These are GMO ones. They don't bite. And as you're killing them, I'm like, okay, yeah.
But then when we look at the pace of development, as Ray was sharing, that us now, the younger generation, don't necessarily recall it, don't appreciate it.
I mean, I hear people when we out, the mosquitoes, the monsters are bad tonight. And I'm like, really? 5? When we talk about the clouds of them.
Yeah, well, most of the houses back in those days had screens in the windows.
By the 20s, apparently. Only by the 20s. The screen was what I called it.
Yeah, could
20,
be, that's possible.
Okay.
And at night, basically that screen would be covered with mosquitoes, and you'd have to keep waving the black flag around, or if you had a little DDT, spray it on them, and they'd go, and before you know it, they were all
a little DDT.
They were back.
We had one of the oral history talked about that. Had to go out on the porch, had a screen porch, and went outside, and he said the noise, the sound of it, all that stuff you don't appreciate. When we get to the clip soon, he talks about going back. He's from Bermuda, going back to Bermuda and having a beehive or something, and that was his trigger to.
So why don't we introduce the clip played after the break? But we got to take the break first, right? It is our monthly CWA saying show. You don't realize and appreciate the amount of work the Ray does until you drop it in your lap, and then you realize he does a lot of work. So when you come back,
that's what some people say.
Yeah, with Mr. Loxley Banks, Ray Banker, we're going to have a chance to share with you. Please stay tuned.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Now you'll never have to choose between two desserts at Subway. The new caramel brownie cookie is 2 treats in 1. Imagine sweet, gooey caramel with decadent chocolate chunks baked in brownie-flavored dough and topped with a light drizzle of caramel icing. And you have the new caramel brownie cookie, available at Subway. Complete your Subway sandwich, pizza, or salad with the delicious caramel brownie cookie or any other cookie flavor and dessert. Available at all Subway locations. Subway. Eat fresh.
We are in an age of exponential change. The world is experiencing a technology boom where innovation is at an all-time high. What does this mean for small island nations? How can we adapt to the emerging digital revolution? Join 900 delegates from 3 Caribbean countries at one regional event to tackle the theme, Global Digital Disruption, Threat or Opportunity. The virtual RF Economic Outlook Conference happens on May 6th. Register today at rfeoc.com.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter will be taking appointments until April 27th at his Crew Road Clinic. Appointment slots are limited. Whether you're seeking advanced skin care, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email dr.porterkman@gmail.com or call 946-9020 to book your appointment today. That's 946-9020. How would you describe Siwa saying?
A language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM.
Okay, I like that definition. Now let's get back to the show.
Siwa saying?
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. It is our CWA Saying show. Ray Banker, together with Loxley Banks, helps us. So was it MISKITTAS too?
MISKITTAS too.
The Ichin?
We get to play some clips so we didn't have the opportunity to do it before. So can I introduce the clip now?
Of course you can.
And
Hold on.
this
You can do it now.
This is Sir James Astwood. You'll get to hear his Bermudian accent. He was a magistrate in the, I think it's the 60s, or starting late 50s. And he'll tell you about the state of Miskittas, what he had to do. And it was, like I said, when I was doing these things, it was hard to come up with a Caymanian that gave a good explanation of how bad Miskittas were, because I think they just took it for granted, you know. So this is but saying that, we'll introduce Mr. Astwood.
The air conditioning intelligence, I sat down, all my wig on my head was a fan with some black flag, and I put the fan close to me and blew it on me. I regaled some of my friends in Bermuda about my days as a youngster in Cayman Islands, and some of the stories I tell, they my mosquitoes. And one of the stories I tell people, right on, I heard buzzing, a buzzing sound as you hear like honeybees. I don't know whether you have honeybees in Caymans, but if you hear honeybees who hive or come close to your house and make a nest. And I heard this humming sound. It was a very familiar sound in Bermuda. In fact, in my gardens right now in Bermuda, I have a hive like that. Yeah. And I go by them and I hear the humming. That brings back memories. Yeah. The humming I heard on my veranda. I couldn't believe it. I said, I don't know bees to hive like this or swarm like this at night. And so I got up and looked out. And that veranda was black. The floor of the veranda was black with dead mosquitoes, and the air was just black with mosquitoes. The light seemed to attract them. And next morning, when I woke up at 5 o'clock or whatever time it's dawn, I kept hearing a noise, a hitting sound, like a woodpecker against a tree. And I said I'd never seen any woodpeckers in Cayman up at that time. I kept hearing this sound. Again, I got up and looked out. And what I saw outside on my veranda was Pat Henderson's chickens. I come across and they're eating dead mosquitoes feeding off the dead mosquitoes on the veranda. The veranda had a black carpet of mosquitoes. And that was a nuisance of mosquitoes. And the stories they've told here in those days, cows or cattle were killed by mosquitoes, and which I didn't doubt that happened. Because I was going to say I was almost killed by mosquitoes on one occasion, right here almost in the area where we're sitting right now, along the 7 Mile Beach. There's a man here in those days called Ira Thompson. Yes. He's another very famous Canadian. Yes. Ira was the driver who met me at the airport and drove me in his taxi to my hotel. And Ira was the official government driver of anybody like on Open Grand Court or any of those things. Ira would drive me in his taxi. So Ira was a nice fellow. And I think he, if if I'm not mistaken, I think he started the turtle farm. And he started it as a hobby, some little turtle business up.
Quite probable.
Up in this
He
place.
had a lot of vision.
Vision, that little man. Ira said to me over and over again, Judge, I would like to take you cast fishing off the 7 Mile beach. So I knew there was plenty of mosquitoes out there. He says, no, I'll get a night when there's not too many mosquitoes around. And I'll come and pick you up. Well, in those days, nothing much to do here, so anything like that you go along with. So it came the day, saw Ira in town. He says, Judge, tonight I will come and pick you up. It was evening, let's say 7 o'clock, I've forgotten the exact time. He's going to take me up to 7 Mile Beach. So he came by the house, and he didn't use his car. That's why I said there was a young man who called Mr. Broderick. I had dinner with him last night, Mr. Pat Broderick.
Yes.
Mr. Pat Broderick came by in his car. He had a car there, and he took Ira and myself and Pat. He was a youngster at that time. He wasn't married to Celeste at that time. And took us up here to the 7 Mile Beach, somewhere in this area along here, maybe a little further up by the government house, somewhere. Anyway, it was on this beach. And this was all just a wilderness. So we went down to the beach, cast lines. But young Pat, as we call him then, went visiting. I suppose he went to visit Celeste, who was now his wife, up in West Bay. And he took the hat. Said he was come back shortly. Well, I got down to the beach, not realizing that we should have had helmets, mosquito netting, dropped into the sand. And mosquitoes tried to take us. And they got in my eyes and my nose. I said, Ira, I thought you said that this would be many mosquitoes out tonight. But Ira, these things are killing me. I stuck it down there as long as I could, and I said, Ira, I've got to leave. I'm going up to the road to see if I can get a drive. In those days there was no cars. You talk about stay out there. I stayed out on that road, this same West Bay Road here, for about half an hour before anything came along. And by that stage, mosquitoes were sucking me, to suck my life out of me. I was just about exhausted from mosquitoes attacking me.
From the loss of blood?
And the mosquitoes attacking me in frustration. And the chap drove along and he stopped. He got me in his headlights, and I think he had been one of the chaps that I dealt with in the master's court. Because when he saw me, he says, oh, it is you. I should leave you out here. He said, I should leave you out here for these mosquitoes and punish you some more. So I was like that. He said, anyway, I take mercy on you. I'll give you a drive. He said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to Georgetown to my home. And they questioned what I was doing up there. I said, I was fishing on the beach, but I couldn't take it any longer. He said, okay. So I got talking to him going on to Georgetown, and I said, I hope I didn't treat you too bad. He said, no, you gave me a hard time, but you could have been worse on me, I suppose. But he took me out of my suffering mosquitoes. And mosquitoes, it was unbelievable. You can't imagine.
No.
How.
Well, did that make you ill? I mean, were
It make me ill. I was pretty tough. I had a lot of
Yeah.
bites on me for a couple of days, but I got over that. But if I'd been left out there for another hour, I think the mosquitoes would have done a good job
That's
on me.
real torture, isn't it?
There's
Yeah.
torture. There's no where I could escape.
No, nothing you could do, and they just
There's no
kept coming and
habitation.
coming and
It was just a
coming.
road. This is all wilderness here.
Now, were they worse at certain times of the year than others? Or were they
Yeah, I suppose they ceased to be, but I could see them. They were bad all the time. But if you had a dry spell for a long time, the nuisance seemed to have beat it. As soon as the rains came, they should say 7 days or 9 days or 10 days, whatever the period is, you could almost to the day, that night they'd come out, or that day they'd just come out of the trees and just attack you. It was terrible.
So we're laughing in here, but there's a bunch of stuff to unpack in that. And he talks about almost, well, first of all, that was a good night. That Mr. Ira took him out that night. They weren't too bad. The mosquitoes weren't too bad that night. So his fears that he might have died out there wasn't totally unfounded. We've got a 1971 bite count of 600 per minute, 600 bites per minute. That's in South Sound, and it's noted that bites by the largest mosquitoes, like 200,000. It would take about 5.5 hours, and you could die from blood loss. So maybe about 4 more hours, you would have got it. But it's all people to mention there. Mr. Ira Thompson is who we have as a father as a museum, and his office, this magistrate office, was actually in the museum above. I think was now the cafe.
But is it the bite and the loss of blood? Is it suffocation possibly? Because he said it got up in his nose as well.
Yes. If you were not careful, you could inhale. Start.
I'm pretty sure we did at the time.
Yes. I mean, there were instances where they killed cows by suffocating them.
Yeah. But it was interesting. As you get away with all the takeaways, right? And I listened to it again. He said MISKITTAS. You notice that, right? He didn't say mosquitoes or anything.
And I love his accent. It's a Bermudian accent.
Yeah. But he still said MISKITTAS.
That's good.
So,
MISKITTAS. I don't know whether that's them or his influence with that.
Yeah, MISKITTAS, Barkas, Boronu. Let's make sure the words get...
Okay.
I'm just adding more to the vocabulary.
Okay.
The vernacular must be preserved, right?
We've got a little thing there. We forgot to mention that was a clip from...
Oh, yeah. So that was part of the oral history collection over the Canadian National Archive, and that was done in 1992 on the 12th of June. The magistrate was recalling his experiences in 1959.
And we would like to poll the audience to see if they know who the guy that... It's got to be a West Bay. He's come from West Bay. He's like, oh, you?
Not necessarily.
Well, possibly a West Bay.
And thinking about that,
a Georgetown or West Bay.
1958, who in West Bay had
cars then?
And there was a few Georgetowners who...
Maybe Uncle Ivan.
Ivan probably had a car, yes, in 1958, yes. But there were a few Georgetown young men that had cars that was going to West Bay to look for little romance.
So we were we were debating this, right, and trying to find out whether the magistrate, well, learned as he is, was sort of paraphrasing or being, a direct sort of recount. And he said, "Oh, it's you. I should leave you out there." Now, had he properly, recollected, then we could determine where this guy was from.
Probably, yeah. But it sounds like West Bay.
Oh, you? I should be
you. Yeah. That's
And when I was thinking, this is as a gentleman, early 30s, right? Probably he banks of a pottery. We went down So we want to know who it was.
If it sounds familiar, and you got fined or whatever because he wasn't in jail.
No.
I guess we got fined by Magistrate James Astwood in probably 58.
You want to do a little more research? Go to the court records and see who went to the court.
If they still have them. I know that we lost a lot of it.
We're pouring over history. We're pretty sure we know who it is,
You probably don't know.
Had a car, maybe from West Bay.
And we think the car was probably green.
It had good headlights, could see him.
Yeah. It was a 4-door.
Well, the one that I know had a green car. Of course, this would have been a little earlier. I don't think he'd have picked him up.
Yeah. but that's a particularly bad night, so he might have picked him up.
That was a good night. That's what Ira took. Because Ira, at this point, is still on the beach casting while he's got that.
The question to be had is, with respect to Mr. Celeste, where was Mr. Patton?
Well, he knew what mosquitoes were like, so he absconded.
No, but you see, these are the things, right? They're not just the nuances, but the actual implications and the impact of what transpired. So
just the sound and all that stuff. He takes you there, and then how black the floor was with mosquitoes.
Yeah. Well, you could be walking along, and sometimes you try to walk fast, but you could hear them around your ears, and you could speed up, you could start to run, but they were there with you.
But and I say this, and gents, guide me. For those who are listening, the phone lines are obviously open. You can call and share your thoughts. We'll remind you of the number in case you forgot. But what is interesting, I keep saying that there are many great benefits and attributes to living in Cayman. One, not least of which, is the fact that there's so many people who have come to Cayman and made it their home. So when you get to talk to them, whether they've been here 10 years or they've been here 40 years, and they can tell you about their experiences in Cayman, and when people who are relatively new to the island, they can tell you, well, oh yeah, 6 months. Those mosquito bites, they're 3 weeks old, as you were recalling, right? We did it, but so too are these people who are new here.
Well, I could tell you a little story quickly. My grandfather was captain of the yacht Flight, which used to adorn the West Bay Bight quite frequently. And the yacht Flight was owned by the Lambert Pharmaceutical Company. It was their cruising yacht. Okay, he had an all Caymanian crew except for the wireless operator, and it was one of the few pleasure crafts of that day. And I'm talking about the late 20s, early 30s, that had wireless communication.
Right.
But anyway, Lambert, one of the Lamberts, was interested in starting a plantation here, a coconut plantation in Cape Ann. And he came here on the boat. My grandfather brought him here and took him, first of all around West Bay. I spent one afternoon going around West Bay. And when they got back to the beach, Mr. Lambert was going back aboard the boat. He turned to my grandfather and said, Captain Sam, I don't think I want to do anything. And it was the mosquitoes. The old folks say, probably ate him. And he told my grandfather, say, you get the best steer that you got in West Bay or that you got in your grass piece, and we'll have a party, and threw a big party in West Bay.
But you see, that thing of what mosquitoes and as they...
And he mentioned it here, saying that how crucial getting controlling them were to the development. I can tell you, someone walked in a museum. He said this was like about 2 years ago or something. Came off the cruise ship, I think. He said, "Wow, this is amazing." He said, "Never thought Cayman would be like this." So last time he was here was like maybe, say 65 or late 60s, and he said the same thing. I think he was Canadian, and he said his father was there. He was a child at the time. His father was there looking to invest a piece of land. And it's the same thing. They took him down to the beach, and it was like, there's no way we'd be able to survive down there because of the mosquitoes. And probably definitely within 5 years, they started controlling mosquitoes, and then
But thinking back of it, those of us who grew up in that era, we accepted it.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's what I was saying. When I was choosing the clips, it was difficult to find a Caymanian that accurately described, as he did, how bad they were. Because the Caymanian just said, oh, yeah, they were bad. There were trillions of them. They were bad. That was it.
But, and my mind triggers back now to, and this would have been probably in August, probably 52, 53, because, it would have been August, because I had to go back to school. But anyway, we're right across from Burger King in West Bay, that property there, one of the first properties to be built on West Bay Road. When the U.S. Navy was here, of course, they had a lot of heavy equipment. They dug big trenches back there. And all along the West Bay Road beach, at the crest of the beach, there were these trenches, defensive positions. Okay? I believe that the trenches were probably 50, 60, 75 feet long, and they were at least, I would say, 15, 20 feet wide, and probably 8 feet deep. And these were the defensive positions.
Right.
If the Germans came ashore, they this was during the war. And when they wanted to build on this site, there was no backhoes, there was no front-end loaders here.
They had to dig that by hand.
So they hired a bunch of us young men, I was still in school, to back sand off of the beach in ground baskets from the beach up to these trenches. And it was in the month of August, hot, and I recall mosquitoes bothering us 12 o'clock in the day there.
Because of all, it was fairly swampy as well, right?
Well, no,
the swamp would be in the back
of that.
Yeah. They, at that position, there was not.
That'd be where Cayman Bay would be now. Would be their nest.
No, it wouldn't be that far back at all.
Well, no, it wouldn't. But
West India Club in the lake.
The immediate vicinity was Coquitlam Bush. And then the road, the beach, because it was quite wide at that. If you look now, even so, it's still.
So that's during the day.
That's during the day. We worked. We had to walk up from West Bay, leave home daylight, first roost of the crows, get up there and start work 7 o'clock, and then we had to walk back down. $1 a day. $1 a day.
That would good pay too.
I was just thinking that's probably good money.
Well, yeah, it was. And if Lucido's listening, he'll tell you a story sometime what myself and I guess a couple of other guys did with part of that $1 a day that we made. There's quite a story behind that.
But no, so you said even though you're used to it, it still bothered you. And get back to, remember when we did the Key West thing? That was one of the reasons we were favored over other employees, because we were used to the mosquitoes that Key West, Everglades and stuff.
They were bothersome, you know. We got a couple of cattle, and I would have to go down sometime twice a night because we had to make up smoke to keep them from stifling the cows.
Yeah.
And then in the morning, daylight, go down to milk the cows. And man, sometimes I had to set the bucket down, hope that the cow didn't kick it over, and had a brush in one hand. And they used to make, the bush that you use especially for mosquitoes was the shamrock bush, which is very soft, more or less. But there were some people that had a little, I want to call it cottage industry.
Yeah, you would have a sisal.
Making brushes out of the sisal, sisal plant.
Mm-hmm. See that level of resilience and resolve, but ingenuity as well, right? And I wondered
necessity
today,
is the
mother invention, right?
Yeah.
And today, when we look at that, not just tenacity, but that innate character of Caymanians, we see it exhibited when Flagler was doing the railroad in Key West. We see it in the mariners as they went to see whether the Mosquito Keys or whether on the carriers, right, and about tankers and the like. But you even see it now. Today, there's almost that have that drive.
I mean, the dredging industry in especially South Florida was very dependent on Caymanian seafarers. And, tying all this in with what the narrative coming out of the Flagler Railroad experience probably also played in because they were filling in swamps. And in fact, I was told, Mr. Prentice told me a story, they were filling in what is now the little island that's right across from out in the Miami Harbor, right across from the dock.
Is that Biscayne
Bay? It's Biscayne Bay.
Yeah, but it's all
the Keys and Biscayne Bay.
High rise. They were pumping that up, and he mentioned about the mosquitoes that sometimes they'd have to jump over and swim in the bay to just wash them off.
Wow. All right, DJ Lynn, we have the commercial break. Is that where we are? We have the news break as well. When we come back, Mr. Loxton will continue, regaling with us. Ray Banker always has the inside scoop relative to the historical perspective, compliments of the National Archive and the National Museum. The phone lines are open though, 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Mosquitoes. Well, you heard Bermudan with the proper accent saying mosquitoes. So when you're in the West Bay, you see the same, must be one in the. All right, so stay tuned for Talk Today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Honey, our fridge has stopped working again. Everything in the freezer is melting. We need to get this repaired right away. I'm calling Brand Source Service.
When you need the very best appliance service, call Brand Source Service at 623-5000. Offering service and installation of all brands and models of appliances. Brand Source Service is Cayman's source for appliance parts and repairs with qualified and experienced technicians and the island's largest stock of appliance parts. Brand Source Service will have your repair completed in a flash. So, whatever the problem is, call the experts at 623-5000. Brand Source Service, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park. Telephone 623-5000.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm April Cummings. As Parliament meets today, the new government sets in place some of the committees needed to proceed with the business of the country. It also provided an opportunity for the newly elected members of Parliament to make statements to the country. We'll have a wrap-up for you on Radio Cayman News at 6. In international headlines, French prosecutors opened a terrorism investigation into the fatal stabbing of a police official inside a police station near the historic Rambouillet Chateau outside Paris. Police shot and killed the attacker at the scene, according to authorities. An anti-terrorism prosecutor told reporters that his office took over the probe because the attacker had staked out the station ahead of time because of statements he made during the attack and because he targeted a police official. The prosecutor did not provide details on the attacker's identity or motive, but French media reports identified him as a 37-year-old French resident with no criminal record or record of radicalization. Republican Caitlyn Jenner said today that she will be running for the governor of California, injecting a jolt of celebrity into an emerging campaign that threatens to oust Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom from office. Jenner, as you may know, was an Olympic hero, a reality TV personality, and now transgender rights activist, and said in a statement posted on Twitter and on an accompanying website that she has filed initial paperwork to run for the post. Those are your headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom. I'm April Cummings.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
45 years.
3 beloved isles.
1 beloved station, Radio Cayman.
The voice.
The heart.
The soul of the Cayman Islands.
45 years young. Happy anniversary, Radio Cayman.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette, brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Although very similar to their Grand Cayman counterparts, organized religion in the Sister Islands was spearheaded by the work of Baptist ministers as opposed to Presbyterian missionaries who started the churches nearly 40 years after that in Grand Cayman. In May of 1885, Reverend J.H. Sobey, minister of the Second Baptist Church of Montego Bay, visited Cayman Brac at the invitation of the Brac seamen. During his visit, Reverend Sobey held the first service in a large house, and it was so overcrowded that the following day a tent had to be erected to have the service. In 1886, Reverend Sobey returned to Cayman Brac with Secretary of the Jamaica Baptist Missionary Society, Reverend E.J. Hewitt, in order to introduce Reverend H.W. Rutty as the Brac missionary worker. Congregations started at various settlements with the construction of 2 chapels in Stake Bay and the Creek. The progress would continue, and 6 months later, Reverend Rutty was ordained as a permanent missionary, and more congregations were formed in West End, Sport Bay on the east end of the island, and South Harbour in Little Cayman. Reverend Rutty's son and grandson would go on to become Cayman Brac's collector and Chief Justice of the Peace.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette, brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
We are in an age of exponential change. The world is experiencing a technology boom where innovation is at an all-time high. What does this mean for small island nations? How can we adapt to the emerging digital revolution? Join 900 delegates from 3 Caribbean countries at one regional event to tackle the theme, Global Digital Disruption, Threat or Opportunity. The virtual RF Economic Outlook Conference happens on May 6th. Register today at rfeoc.com.
WHA Saying is a special feature of Talk Today with contributions from the National Museum, a language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM. WHA Saying.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thanks for joining us as we invite you to be a part of a discussion. 949-837, 1-800-534-8255. Or you can WhatsApp your thoughts or record a voice note, 925-3261. We have the excellent company of Ray Banker. Yeah, excellent and Ray. They can go together. Well, Mr. Loxley Wanks, you think that's possible?
Sweet mouth. He
said
no.
He said no.
We've been talking about his singing and everything.
Mr. Banker was a great guy.
He's a good guy?
Yeah.
Hear that, Mr. Banker? And there's a couple of them. There's a couple, so even that. Okay,
but we know that Mr. Loxley is an honorable, honest gentleman.
Uncle Banker, then let's put it that way.
Uncle Banker. During the break, we were asking if I'm a good singer.
No.
All right, so the Ichin, Mosquitoes too.
But talk about the eradication, how they were controlled. And can you agree with this? A name, we keep hearing about Giglioli, but a name before that doesn't get mentioned as much and credited as much is Mr. Birdie Ebanks. Yeah, he was what was his thing? He was the health officer.
Health officer, yeah.
And that wasn't necessarily medical.
No, I don't think he had really much connection with what you call the medical side. It was a more environmental health.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
That's what you would call it. And then he, and that his career in that position sort of started with the naval base, I would say.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
And that, I think they were the first ones, even though we didn't know there was a Giglioli Senior. The one that we know is a father, and he was a noted, and I didn't even know they had it, a malariologist.
Yes, that was his specialty.
Yeah, so his father was, he was, their family's famous for things. They started in Guyana.
Did a lot of work in Africa and where malaria was, just.
And he was noted for removing it, the Aedes aegypti, I think, in Guyana. So he came here and did a study, I think, in the 40s, after like the first sort of study about mosquitoes were with that Oxford expedition that came here in the 30s, 38, I think it was. And so the first time I think they started treating mosquitoes would have been when the Navy was here.
Yes.
And I remember reading about they did some spraying, they did diesel, and I wonder if because that's when it was introduced, DDT, with the Navy or the military. I don't know if the DDT was developed specifically for the Navy. For the military, or it just happened that it was developed around about the same time. Mm-hmm. But
I think DDT had been around for a long. Has been around for a long. Yeah.
But
it's probably one of the first really dangerous chemicals to begin with.
But at first, they didn't identify it as being dangerous.
No.
Because they advertised it as being odorless. No, you couldn't taste it, so it was good for the food. There's a famous picture of this girl eating a hot dog and there's smoke all around her. I said odorless, tasteless. What else? Basically, it was safe. It was like so safe. So the military identified that they actually they had more casualties from insect-borne diseases than actually combat. So they were a big proponent of using it. They sprayed it everywhere. They put it in the planes and they sprayed it powder and liquid form, all that stuff. So probably was introduced in Cayman, I would say, with the naval base.
Yes. I don't think there was any prior, because that would have been 41. Though you never know. I was born 38, so I can't.
Yeah.
I can't recollect anything.
So we're saying possibly that's when. So that's when they sort of employed the or came up. That's the first time I heard about the position there, the health officer, and he would start spraying in people's houses and around the yard and things like that.
Yeah, and they did it with what's called the old flit gun.
Mm-hmm.
They had a flit gun usually came, and I think that is the little reservoir, pint size, and I think quart. And I mean, they might even had a gallon. Someone mentioned that they thought that they had some backpack sprays.
Yes. He talks about, so why don't we do this? Why don't we just go to the clip?
No, let's do the caller first, please.
Do you have a caller?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go to the caller. And hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon.
Apparently.
Most of the time it's me. But the oral history collection.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is S.O. What is
S.O. Ebanks, Samuel Osborne.
Thank you. And then the other voice you probably hear is Miss Anita Ebanks, the former director of the museum. And she's interviewing him in the museum and or the old courts building. And because his offices were there, he had a little office there, and some of the chemicals, I keep telling everybody, they were stored there. So this is what you're going to hear him talking about.
What year was this?
This was in 1987.
So interview from 1987.
Yeah, and he's born in 1987.
Hazard health, you know.
2-gallon bucket of mosquitoes.
Yeah, and that's a lot of mosquitoes. I wonder how much that would be. Is it 2 gallons of mosquitoes probably more than 2 gallons of which is heavy? All right, but I think that as we listen to Mr. Brady Banks, we count. I think Ray said it earlier, and it speaks to two things. He's not given sufficient credit.
No,
and he was responsible for eradicating the yellow fever.
It's only on the MRCU website is just mentioned his position, the health officer.
Yeah.
But he was in, what was it? I think 53. World Health Organization (WHO) came and they noted that the Aedes aegypti mosquito was eradicated at that time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So no, he did great work. Like you say, he never. And he was very humble man. I tell you a little story.
He was a Renaissance man too. I mean, he was well into history and all that stuff.
Yes. Well, he wrote a book. His book reveals a lot of Cayman history and heritage.
A lot of oral history.
I'll tell you just a quick little story about him. When I first came home in 1975, one day I went home for lunch and was coming back, and when I passed where he lived right there, right by the Presbyterian Church, he was sitting on the porch. And I said, well, I haven't seen him. Let me just stop and say hi. And I stopped and said hi to him. And in the middle of the summer, dry, no rain. And I looked out, he had a little garden. I looked out on one of the plants, and I saw this beautiful flower. And I said, Mr. Birdie, how do you get that flower to bloom, that tree to bloom in this kind of environment? He looked at me, saying, not real, He had taken an artificial flower and taped it to the limb of the rose tree.
You know what? Bring a little color in the garden, huh? Yeah, but you are right. He was, I guess, by definitely a Renaissance man. And it speaks to part of why we're losing so much, why we don't celebrate. And it translates now into us not having the appreciation.
I mean, you think of what he was a great musician, and he used to sing, great singer.
And then he had his shop was out by the
and he started the Sunday school in Bosun Bay, which is now the Bosun Bay Presbyterian Church.
It's the British Church.
Yes.
We fondly call it that, right?
Under a grape tree.
Yep.
And he stayed with that until he could no longer walk. I mean, I used to, and he had a worker, a lady worker that was with him sometime, quite a bit of time in the early days. And I used to see him passing by, carrying her on a carrier. You know what a carrier? Do you remember the carrier on a bicycle? Mm-hmm. Carrying her on a carrier, and she was riding what you call side saddle. And he was quite wobbly because she.
But you see, those are the things, right? I think we can look at today's Cayman with the technology, with the pace of development, with the conveniences of almost any other well-developed country, and quickly forget that 50 years ago, or in some cases, maybe 70, 80 years ago, but not that long ago, it was extremely difficult and seemingly impossible. Who would want to make a home there? What would it take?
I described it to some people, if they ever seen Alfred Hitchcock classic The Birds.
The Birds, yeah.
That's how it was every night when you prepared to lock up.
Yeah. You actually locked up. You turned in.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
if it was any little hole or anything that you forgot, thing open, you're like, that was a bad night.
They would come through, that's for sure.
Yeah, they would find you.
Mr. Loxley, if it's, hopefully I ask it in the right way, but if there's any way to give us a picture. So the houses are wooden, there are no screens, and you would lock, and everything would be closed in order to ensure that you keep the mosquitoes out. There are no fans, no air conditioning.
And then, hold on, he talked about if you have livestock, you had to have sufficient wood. And then what if now it rained during the night?
Yeah. So
well, if it rained during the night, you would have the fire, and you'd have to really get out there and see if you could get that fire started again, right. or the smoke.
So we have to go out in the rain.
Yeah.
So two parts: exit in the house to do something like we heard the clip from the gentleman from Bermuda. Everybody really got a person we dashed to the car.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, I want to revisit that, but before.
And then you have the one person that the door opener.
Yeah.
So you run in the car first, and he's the one that opened the door for everybody.
Right.
And then also in the house.
In the house. So you're from sundown to sunup, you're in the house for the most part. But for when you go to living in there, the comfort level, you expecting now supper has been served, you washed up for the night, you turn it in, you're going to go to bed. There's no air conditioning, there are no fans, ventilation, the comfort.
Then you have the black flags in the house.
But
right?
I think you have to think about most of the houses back in those days.
They were elevated?
They were elevated, yes, at least 18 inches, some probably as far as 20, 24, 30 inches, 36 inches off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And you had breeze, if there was any breeze flowing under this. So it had a kind of cooling...
house was wood too, right?
Yes, and if you look at a lot of the older buildings, the partitions in the house did not go up to the ceiling. Most of them were not sealed.
Right.
Okay, so you had this
sort of
ventilation that was a great assistance to the comfort in the house when you locked all the doors.
Yeah. And the thing is, I was asked that to recall a conversation some were having with some younger children who today now their reference is an air-conditioned house. Or we talk about sealing the envelope, get it properly insulated and the like. And it's not the same thing to go in, turn off your car, windows up. It's not that same thing. But the construction, the way they live, speaks to, I guess, the necessity. But
adaptation.
Also the adaptation. Now,
to the environment.
Yeah.
So in between there was the fan days when we had to share a fan. You got more fan than me and all that.
And if it start oscillating and it gets stuck in a spot.
Yeah.
Oh my. All right. So even not just going out in the night to tend to the cows as you did, whether it rained or not, but even leaving the house, the space to get to the car. Fast forward to the 50s, 60s, even 70s, right? When there were some bouts of mosquitoes. That was a production. It was orchestrated. You made a dash for it, as you were.
We talked about, I think it was Miss DaCosta, saying that she had to look up what she wore. You couldn't wear white.
Yes, yeah.
All that stuff, the stockings and stuff. She'd then walk into work or get into work, and she would dress at work. Finish dressing at work.
Well,
so all of that stuff was...
Yeah.
And it I think it speaks to the you want to call it ingenuity of our forefathers, or and the adaptation that we
conditioning,
did. Yeah. And I think with all that's going on here now, I think we need to do some serious adaptation to preserve our heritage and
our lineage.
Yeah.
But I guess that's kind of why when we have these discussions, we hear it over and often. How did people live there? Even now, there are some bad evenings where almost inexplicably, almost mosquitoes are out.
Oh, yes,
they're bad. Right?
So I think they consider it 90-something, like almost 99% controlled now. Control. Not eradicated. Controlled.
But they were eradicated. Now we seemingly have, anyway, come back around to some question as to what we have these days and what's around.
With the GMO, all the other stuff thing.
Yeah.
So that was 50s, late 50s. So 1960s. So I think 65 MRCU. MRCU was established, a research control unit. Mosquito Research and Control Unit was established under the control of Dr. Marco Giglioli to prevent vector-borne disease. The vector is the mosquito. Reduce nuisance biting. A laboratory was set up in 1965 in Georgetown Hospital. I think A&E.
Where the current site is, though?
Yeah. And then 1966, the mosquito research law was actually first passed. And then in 66, the first vehicles, the foggers.
The fogger trucks, huh?
Yeah. Introduced, and it's a Tifa Todd machine I guess that's one of the standard ones, I guess, that you would sort of see in sort of archival photos in the States. But the ones I remember is like the little minimum oaks. The little small minimum oaks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then they later sort of got some pickup trucks and put them in back at the pickup trucks.
Yeah.
And, a lot of that, the majority of that fogging process was done by volunteers at night. Captain Theo Borden was I think he kind of championed that whole volunteer process.
Okay. Theo.
Volunteers.
Volunteers, yes.
So this is in the 60s. So what do you think they were? I mean, I can't say. I haven't heard exactly. I haven't seen DDT mentioned on the WHA site, on the MRCU site. But what do you think was in that spraying? I think.
I don't want to speculate what was in it.
Yeah.
But I would believe that DDT was used
certainly in Mr. Birdie days.
Yeah, and I think it was. I'm almost sure it was used probably up to mid-70s.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably a
60s
fair,
for sure.
A fair guess without inflammatory. Yeah.
And then after that, you found out that it wasn't the harmless, odorless, can be eaten. No danger to the environment.
But you go back to the
person.
What the U.S. military said, right? That the amount of people dying, from
disease,
malaria,
yellow fever,
it was higher than what they were losing in combat.
Yes.
So when you trade off your units, right, that's basically the word, right?
It was greater good.
Yeah. And it's a cost-benefit analysis. So
yeah.
we lose.
Justify the means.
Yeah, we lose more in the long run, but right now we need these units, people. That's all it was, right?
And in the Asian war theater over there, and African war theater, the malaria, those mosquito-borne diseases was heavily prevalent, and a lot of the troops were dying.
And if you can get back to way back when, how some of these mosquitoes, like the Egypti mosquitoes, were introduced to the New World, they said it was heavily based because of slavery inside the ships, and also the Africans were favored because of all the exposure to malaria. They had a built-up immunity, so the first sort of indentured slave / workers that they had here were actually European convicts, and they expelled people they want to get out. So they didn't fare too good in the conditions.
In the Caribbean, you mean?
Yeah, in the Caribbean.
Not here. Just kidding.
That's how the whole African slave trade was sort of took off. They realized that they did better in this condition, in these conditions.
So when we think of the development and sort of that balance, but you got MRCU, you got the dikes, as you were going to share with us?
Yeah. So dike building, so 67. So now, if for those people that go walking in the dikes and they're wondering why they're there, the dikes were built in swamps of Grand Cayman, and we got to mention about the sister islands, how they handle things over there, because their conditions were a little bit different, and the canals, they were building them all up to 1983, and allowed the swamp levels. Now this I need to figure out more, because some of those mosquitoes will breed in salt water. So I want to know how that sort of worked. Like how, some of them they wouldn't actually lay their eggs in necessarily water. They'd be laying them on the mud, and then when the flood waters comes in, that's when they hatch.
Well, I believe, if my memory serves me right, that there was some kind of oil additive that they would put, because if you put oil on the water, it means the larva can't breathe.
Yeah, that needs to be said, that the larva needs to come up and get air, and they also need that to hatch. They need to be able to break the surface.
Yes, and I'm not sure what the oil additive that was used, but I think that was also a part of the eradication process. Because we mentioned Luisito a while ago. He was big in getting those canals dug.
Okay. And I know I think he actually sprayed people physically, say at the airport and things like that. Is that how he sort of got his name, the Bug Man?
I'm not sure that the physical spraying of people. I don't.
I read that somewhere, or whether that was in a song or something.
No, but I think he was involved in spraying a lot of the premises. As was mentioned in some of the narrative before.
And then after, I think it was. Let me see where I have that. But after it's a constant battle with the Egypti thing, because it's we talked about it in the previous show, that mosquito evolved to be around man.
Yeah, and it too has over the years developed some immunity to all these things that they try to eradicate it with.
That's what they found. That was the other part in the WHO. They found that the Egypti in Cayman, I think that's in at least the 60s and 70s, maybe late 60s, that they became resistant to the DDT.
Yes, and that's why I think
now, how did that happen?
I believe that they keep changing. They change off the various.
That's what was said. They used. I think maybe after the DDT, they used a more or less. I think it was more natural spray or treatment, insecticide, and they have to constantly check to see what's working, and that was part of it. They would shift out. Once it stopped working, they would have to shift out.
They'd rotate the treatments.
Yeah, and some of them were not just killing off the adults. Some was also larvae insecticide, or if that's the correct term. But basically, targeted at the eggs sometime, and then at the larvae in the water. Yeah. So okay, and then it seems to be the biggest problem is at the ports. The amount of containers coming in ship hulls and things like that. That seems to be the sort of how things get reinfected. What was it, 53, and then up to, I think maybe the 70s in the BRAC, the Aegypti was considered eradicated, and then constantly there's more flare-ups and things like that, and they seem to be happening right up in the port areas of BRAC.
Well, every now and again you hear, and I think the Aedes aegypti, they're the one. That's the one that carries the
yellow
dengue
fever.
All
multiple.
And they're constantly have to be on the lookout to keep them under control here, because they're probably still.
And they're the ones that they can easily. I call them the pretty ones. They're black, and you can see they have a little white spot. They're the ones you can identify like that. So.
I mean, I remember there was a certain type they called the gal nipper.
The gal
nipper.
Yeah.
But you could always tell this because whatever surface they landed on, they were straight out.
Yeah, stuck out there. We talked about even the degrees, and somebody's like, I don't care the angle of them. I just won't kill them.
Get that gal nipper.
Yeah. So, So this is the time, like I said, they started doing the traps and getting all the figures and things like that. And what do we have? So 1970, like I said, began on the Sister Islands operations, and Mr. Floyd Banks, I think there may be even a building, they named it building after him. He was so important in that in their fight with it. Says that by 71, the Aegypti was deemed eradicated by HO. So that was that. And that the BRAC actually had it better, or the best out of all the islands, because, and then Little Cayman had it bad, because of their geographical thing. They don't have as much swamp over there.
Yeah, and there's most of the time there's a nice breeze flowing in some direction across both those islands. Whereas,
but Little Cayman was worse than BRAC, and that sort of gives me, or tries to take me back to where trying to decide whether mosquitoes were native to Cayman, or whether we've got it on our panel in the museum. Early 1800s, mosquitoes accidentally introduced. So it starts talking about the range of certain mosquitoes. Some were like the salt marsh apparently had like 20 miles. Now, and that's why the Brack versus Little Cayman was interesting to me. So if the range of these things were such great, like 20 miles, then why weren't the Little Cayman ones? Because Little Cayman, Brack only like 5 miles.
Right. So let me just weigh, again, it's just a hypothesis, and part of the discussion emanates from, Ray and I sort of banting things back and forth, right? So I just want to draw a quick reference. Back in, that would be what, 40s and 50s, Mr. Loxley, you was a young man with the other Westbayers helping to build following the Navy's departure, right? This is during the day and the mosquitoes that you've encountered. Very difficult. Go back to the days of the deforestation by Crimble and the like, taking the hardwoods from the logwood to the mahogany. When was that? 17...
Well, the land grants were in the 1700s, so 1730s and things like that. So that's what I'm thinking too. It would have been, but they had slaves doing that.
No, fair enough, fair enough. But even then, right, they were overseers.
That's what I'm thinking.
So if the mosquitoes were as bad, just a hypothesis, if they were really, really bad, how would
that taken off?
Right, and then you come to just a sort of a interplay, as it were. The Caymanians, the Flagler Railroad in Key West. Dealing with mosquitoes, the people there not as tough, could we say, not as resilient, not as right as the Caymanians, right? Or the Caymanders, what do they call us? Caymanders, right? As history books would record them. So if you take the 1700s, you take the Flagler Railroad, you take yours in the 50s, and there has to be something
and
that
you
maybe
go further back to when Jamaica is being populated by when they've been invaded, taken over from the Spanish, and they had the troops there, Cromwell's army, and they had the troops there dying with the fever.
And they built a base in the mountains, right?
Well, it was 1,700 a woman. By within a couple months time, they're down to a couple hundred. And that is probably why they said the Watlers and the Bardens had moved to Grand Cayman, because the air was good. It was much healthier. So that's 1600s.
Yeah, but even that, and I should, but it was reminding me that back to Jamaica, why that famous military base was built up in the mountains. I should go back to the note. He was telling me about it.
And you can even go to why Miskitta Keys, when you're in Keys, why the ranger huts were built out on the water. I asked them why, and they were like, because of the sandflies and the mosquitoes.
But here's another dynamic that plays into this. Now you think of, and this was the 50s, late 40s, early 50s, I guess the span of 3 or 4 years, these people barking in the swamps. And I've heard them, some of those guys...
forget what do they call it? Food, something. Anyway.
I mean, and they would actually go in there for 2-3 days at a time. And barking in the swamp.
And this also goes back to our logwood, I think, where they had to go when they went to Belize, and they talked about them being in the swamp, and then the mosquitoes killing them there too. And that was always 1600s also.
Yeah. So, I can recall up along the bay, we call it 7 mile beach strip, right where the Ritz-Carlton is on the, I guess you'd call it not the seaside, which that whole area was called Marums.
And I gotta get that one, try to figure that one out.
Getting deep down in there, I guess I probably walked in there a half mile looking crabs. And there were times that some people got lost up there looking crabs.
So we have a caller. DJ, we can take the call, or you got to take the break? All right. Respectfully to the caller, please just stay on. We have a short break to take.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Things just got a bit hotter on the island. Come in today and order the new spicy Korean subs at Subway. They're sweet, spicy, and especially satisfying. Stop in and try the pulled pork with spicy Korean sauce, or the chicken with spicy Korean sauce. And you can message WhatsApp at 929-4658. Order online or use Let's Eat or the Bento app. The spicy Korean subs at Subway in 2 flavors, extra saucy and extra spicy. Subway, eat fresh.
Did you know that defective airbags can cause serious injury or even death if not repaired immediately? Right now, millions of vehicles around the world are under recall for faulty Takata airbags, and yours could be one of them. At Vant Motors, our priority is to make sure the Toyota or Ford you drive is safe. So we are offering customers a free, fast, and easy airbag swap out if your vehicle was manufactured in 2016 or earlier. Find out if you need to have new airbags installed by emailing your Ford or Toyota vehicle's VIN or vehicle identification number to service@vantmotors.com or stop by Vamp's Service Center or call us at 949-2245. Don't risk it. Get the airbags in your Toyota or Ford checked for free at Vant Motors on Walkers Road.
We are in an age of exponential change. The world is experiencing a technology boom where innovation is at an all-time high. What does this mean for small island nations? How can we adapt to the emerging digital revolution? Join 900 delegates from 3 Caribbean countries at one regional event to tackle the theme, Global Digital Disruption, Threat or Opportunity. The virtual RF Economic Outlook Conference happens on May 6th. Register today at rfeoc.com.
Why work with a Suriba agent? We can tell you that those letters represent a proven understanding of the real estate market in the Cayman Islands. But it also means so much more than that. Our trained Suriba agents are committed to ethics, integrity, and excellence of practice. It's all about confidence, knowing you are working with a qualified Suriba agent. As members of Suriba, your trust is our promise. To find a Suriba agent today or to search thousands of listings, visit Suriba.com. Suriba, the mark of excellence in real estate.
There's nothing like the smell of freshly baked bread. The warm, inviting aroma, the fresh and natural taste. Just like homemade. 100% all-natural, additive-free bread.
Enjoy fresh and natural tasting bread from the iconic Caribbean bakery. Always delivered fresh to your favorite supermarkets island-wide. Forget the imported frozen and thawed and enjoy our freshly baked selection of quality breads and pastries.
Try our classic white and wheat sandwich breads, coconut and raisin breads, hamburger and hot dog buns, and a great selection of pastries. Feed your family fresh with Caribbean Bakery.
The Lions Club of Grand Cayman Breakfast is back Saturday, April 24th, starting at 7 a.m. at the Lions Community Center. Enjoy a tasty Caribbean breakfast of turtle gumbo, turtle stew, fried fish and fritters, liver and onions, and ackee and saltfish, starting at only $12. And help support your community. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman supports site screening, prostate and colon cancer awareness, Miss Teen, Spelling Bee, and so much more. Get your Caribbean breakfast and support the Lions Club of Grand Cayman in their community efforts. Saturday, starting at 7 a.m. at the Lions Community Center.
WHA Saying is a special feature of Talk Today with contributions from the National Museum, a language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM. WHA Saying.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us as we invite you to be a part of the discussion. Mr. Loxley Banks joins rear banker MISKITTAS too. Eachin. Here. All right, let's go to the phones. Hey, good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, good afternoon, Sterling, Dwayne. How are you?
Good afternoon. My honourable member, how are you, sir?
And how you guess? You got two of my favorite people on there.
Sir, no, sir, we have Ray as well.
The inimitable Sir Lost the Bank.
Yeah, that's him.
The inimitable. significant amount of soldiers were not only lost in battle, but lost to mosquito carrying diseases borne by mosquito-borne diseases like yellow fever and like malaria. And I get to understand malaria is, boy, that's not easy to deal with, because you get.
I forget who it was. I think it was Captain Blythe that had it bad too. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it really immobilizes you.
But I mean,
you get delirious and all that.
I don't know if you heard us talking, but it also shaped why they chose African slaves were so attractive to be used in the Caribbean.
That is right.
Because of natural resistance to it.
Exactly. I know that from my study of the diaspora.
Mm-hmm.
They came up from the natural resistance. Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Has changed that so many things: the architecture, the settlement, just the human behavior.
Well, I think the mosquito is an insect that's been around for
millions
of years. Yeah. And with all the eradication methods and stuff that we've used, at one time and I think it was basically South Florida and Texas. One of the things that they thought that they could really, get rid of them was that they tried to sterilize, I think, all of the I think it was the males.
The males, yeah.
Yeah. So that because it makes it takes a male and
and it's only the female that actually bites you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that the case?
Yeah. They tried to because it would. The system was if they got, or was it the female that they were trying to sterilize? It must have been the female that they were trying to sterilize, and because
if is it a GMO?
No, this is
no. This was 50, 60.
When you were younger.
Yeah. But they couldn't make much headway with it.
And I go all the way to sort of to try to close out to say conclusion. Should we get rid of it? Because it's like the only, other than feeding of certain animals, what's the use of mosquitoes? And the one that came up, other one that I didn't think about, they pollinate certain flowers. Yeah, because the males go after feed on nectar or plant material, and pollinating is the only other useful thing. But even that isn't as prevalent. They're not as super important with that. So what's the use of them? But it's one of those things where you get rid of them, and then afterward, say you got rid of every mosquito, and you found out they were so integral part to the pyramid,
to the environmental.
Yeah. Because they've been around for millions of years.
All right. We gotta quickly pause, take a short break, but we invite you not only to stay tuned, but you can call and share your thoughts with us. 949-8037, 949-6990. Of course, a Flow toll-free line gets you directly here as well. 1-800-534-8255.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm April Cummings. Newly elected members of Parliament today acknowledge a historic moment in Cayman's political history. 5 women elected to office. They are MPs Juliana O'Connor-Conley, Heather Bodden, Sabrina Turner, Catherine Ebanks-Wilkes, and Barbara Conley. We'll have more on Radio Cayman News at 6. In international headlines, imprisoned Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny said today he is ending his hunger strike after getting medical attention and being warned by his doctors that continuing would put his life at risk. In an Instagram post on the 24th day of the hunger strike, Navalny said he will continue to demand a visit from his doctor to address numbness in his legs and arms, his main demand, but said he would halt the strike after having been examined by doctors who were not affiliated with the prison, something he called huge progress. World leaders join U.S. President Joe Biden today to close his virtual climate summit with stories of their own national drives to break free of climate-wrecking fossil fuels. Kenyans leapfrogging from kerosene stoves to geothermal power, and Israeli startups scrambling to improve battery storage. Speaking to a live Zoom-style screen of leaders of national governments, unions, and business executives from around the world, Mr. Biden said, "We're going to do this together." The second and final day of Biden's summit of 40 world leaders made the case for a massive investment now in the U.S. and around the world for prosperous as well as cleaner economies in the long run. Those are your headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom. I'm April Cummings.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
For information that matter to you, the people. Hear from the government, the opposition, independents, and other experts on issues and solutions that affect you. For the record. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, tune into 89.9 and 93.9 FM from 7:30 to 9 a.m. for Cayman's new Straight Talk morning show. For the record.
I invite you to join me for the record. You are invited to be a part of this interesting and informative show. Embrace the opportunity to dialogue with your legislators, policymakers, and those charged with policy implementation.
For the record.
Brought to you by
Coca-Cola. Available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors.
Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola.
At Subway, we know a meal isn't quite complete without a side, and that's why we're introducing waffle fries. Subway's waffle fries are oven-baked softness with extra crispy edge, giving a satisfying taste to be enjoyed as is or in any of Subway's dipping sauces. Order waffle fries as a side item for $2 or make it a meal deal with any sandwich or salad with a 20-ounce drink and waffle fries for an additional $3 or a 30-ounce or bottle drink and waffle fries for an additional $3.50. Subway, eat fresh.
45 years.
3 beloved isles. 1 beloved station, Radio Cayman.
The voice.
The heart. The soul of the Cayman Islands.
45 years young. Happy anniversary, Radio Cayman.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more
of Talk Today, with contributions from the National Museum, a language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM. See what I'm saying?
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us in the studio with Ray Banker. Is, of course, as Mr. Roy Borden called it, the inimitable locks the banks. We say indomitable, but hey, you see? The respect. That's the abominable. Indomitable. You know what? Only Ray, my friends. Only Ray. So, MISKITTAS 2, the I Ching here on CYC.
So, just to continue with giving our thanks to MRCU, because this is when we started to sort of get a control of them. So, timeline again, 1971, the first aerial insecticide campaign took place using, help me out there now, malathion, I think. That's one of the insecticides. I think that's the one that that they were saying that was more of a natural-based one, but they could get resistant to that, so they have to keep changing it. So they use a Cessna, AG wagon aircraft. And again, 71, Dr. Giglioli, the director of MRCU, was awarded the Order of the British Empire, OBE medal, for his work with the mosquito control.
Mr. Borden was given win?
Exactly.
Just checking.
Like his name, like I said, his name not even mentioned on it. I mean, why? But Mr. Bird, it seemed like in that interview he wanted to make sure, just to let you know, I was the first one that eradicated.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I guess at that point he was tired. That was 83. He was tired of that.
I think he was awarded the Cayman Badge of Honor, I think.
That's
Mr.
okay.
Brody. Yeah.
All right.
So 72 aerial applications began at a large scale. That's the time when they swooped down and scared the hell out of us.
You remember that? Fly us low?
I was up in the top of a bridge one time when that happened. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Acrobatics, huh? Right.
So 74 again was the time that we broke the record. Yeah. And with 700, almost 800,000 mosquitoes caught in one trap night. And so 87, due to appearance of insecticides resistant conventional insecticides, hormonal and bacterial insecticides were introduced. And also, we need to say, like, the little guppies, basically, that I thought that were indigenous, that were Cayman fish, were introduced there too, dropped by helicopters sometime, and then any little permanent settling water, they would introduce them.
Yeah.
I know one comes to mind off Hell Road, that little pond.
Mm-hmm.
What we used to call that the spring. What was Westford?
Well.
Fountain
Road.
Fountain Road,
Yeah.
Probably a sinkhole. No?
You want to go through the timeline?
Yeah,
or
do
go
we
to the
have
phones?
a?
We have a caller.
Yeah, we have a caller.
All right, let's go to the phones. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling. Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This sounds like a call from the... Hey, good afternoon.
Hello.
How are you?
Listen, guys. No division, not by race, not by nationality. You gotta, pull together.
So no division,
So
no dissension, and no disagreement.
Yeah, guys. I hope I don't know.
All right.
See how calm I am. And start me to be calm.
Must be. But you...
But I heard that thing in the background, I heard that, and I'm there.
That thing, I tell you, that triggers.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, talking about public health, could all you tell me anything about cholera in Cayman?
Yes, it was here, yeah, at certain points.
We had a show, yeah.
We had a show during the lockdown, as much as we could. So cholera was, or something like cholera was
potential
reported.
Yeah.
If, any more information, because that's just a little bit. I'm really looking to talk about public health.
Well, I think it was or was it typhus? Like, it's basically when we had chamber pots, and you would you throw them out into the yard, and it's that fecal matter type thing getting contaminated within the soil and within the.
So that would be cholera, then, wouldn't it? I don't know.
Well, there's other diseases that mimic it, that have the same symptoms.
No.
Similar symptoms, yeah. You want to know if we definitely had it, or what was it?
Yeah, I would want to know, yes, if we definitely had it, if that's what we had, the kind of treatment, kind of quarantine, because these people think that, this kind of thing that we're going through now is the first time, but not according to the old people who raised me.
Mm-hmm.
No, well, they were quarantined. There were special quarantine houses.
They had a quarantine house right down there on the other side of the wharf restaurant. In that general area,
so on and so forth.
Big yellow building, or a small yellow building.
And yellow was their thing.
Right.
And the districts and areas that would have been kind of like the
affected.
Areas of affected.
Mm-hmm.
If you know anything about that,
Yeah.
I know you're talking about mosquitoes, but
it plays into
no,
it.
no. Mm-hmm.
But to my understanding about the quarantine, it was affected individuals were isolated. It wasn't like it is now, where globally or even locally, everybody is, put inside in prison, in their own walls.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think they. Well,
but it's so much more polite to do it like that, though.
To do it like how?
Like how you got it now. Everybody stay home.
Yeah. much better, right?
Yeah, make us feel like, we're all one.
Right.
I kind of like that, though.
So it wasn't just one family that was scorned, it was
Yeah, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's true, yeah. That's true, yeah. I mean, the mental health don't matter, the economy don't matter, freedoms don't matter,
But
a big
guys,
stick.
when you're doing something like this again, really dig down in that cholera business for me, because
it's difficult. I found it difficult.
About it in East End. And I think she mentioned somehow like Bordentown and East End.
What exactly about it? That it happened?
Yeah, that it happened.
Yeah, like
and
I said, it's
her
either
name it was cholera. That's what it might not have been, like you said.
There was something in the 30s. I know in my family, a couple of people died with it, but it might have been typhoid. I know definitely typhoid fever was a big thing.
Well,
that mimics cholera.
Over the years we've had pockets of various kind of diseases.
Epidemics.
I wouldn't call them epidemic. Yeah, more or less.
In our scale.
Tuberculosis. At one time that was
and I think the museum has a thing where it might have been a place where leprosy. They had some lepers even quarantined in the.
Well, right. One of my uncles told me a story of folks with leprosy being quarantined in West Bay, and he pointed out the exact area. Told me where it was at.
I think maybe is that Willow.
All right. So to the caller's point.
But that's point taken. But I find it hard because it wasn't a lot. There wasn't. You have to go like the colonial reports, and then what I was finding with that during lockdown was the newspapers, and it was like a sea captain would come in. And being a maritime port, you would get these type of things. So it wasn't unheard of that we could probably have got cholera at some point.
And I believe there was something, and I cannot recall it right at this time, that was connected, some kind of disease. I guess is the right term to use for it, that was connected with the gypsies that we had here.
And that was after the war, wasn't it?
No, that was way before the war.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was in 30s.
It goes back further than that. I think it was the early part of the century.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Could it be
anyway, thank you very much, gentlemen. But just dig for me, please, if you're all doing anything like this again, because I really want to know. She used to tell me this when I was like 8, 9 years old.
And I have to say, like I said, it's tough doing that research called colonial
reports.
Thank you,
Mom. Thank you.
The colonial reports are so scant with it. They'll just say like numbers.
Make a mention,
that's all it is. And because people in the medical HSA thing, like when they have these reviews and things like that, displays, and they try to find it too, it's very difficult for them.
Yeah. Well, again, it speaks to why in this sort of look, even though it's sort of lighthearted, there's a lot that touches in concern, and then it can spark much more rigorous academic debate.
But I can follow up. Remember during the lockdown when we were trying to think how the Spanish flu epidemic in the 1918, the last one that's comparable to the COVID-19. We were, apparently, I found a little note saying we were, I think, spared because of our isolation. So apparently,
but
didn't
when you think back on that, I don't think it was so isolated because there were a lot of seafarers traffic between Cayman and the U.S.
Yeah.
The early part of the 18th century.
So maybe that quarantine boat might have really did it then, or helped out.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, when the ships came in, the medical doctor, whoever it was at that time, he went aboard.
It's a little launch, and it had a flag. I don't have the description on me now, but there was parts.
Yeah, he went aboard, and he made the best observation or survey that he could on all that he saw, and made a decision.
Yeah, he had to give you a pass. Or give you a thing
let's go to the phones, though, and welcome this call. Hey, good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Well, that's me calling back. Talking about availability of information.
Yeah, we found Dwayne actually has cholera. We found that Dwayne actually has cholera.
Mom, does Ray? You were sharing?
Didn't the reports go to England? However many times a year.
We definitely
and a lot of things that we don't know here in Cayman about Cayman are vested in our little spot in England. Now I don't know where but see that is.
The National Archives, probably, yeah.
And you got quite a few of those older men. One was alive up until the storm that did tremendous things overseas and were recognized, and we don't know anything about that in Cayman.
Which one?
So
I don't know that.
Those little papers, you might find it in those papers overseas.
Yeah, no, it's definitely stuff that's been, I don't know if we call it withheld, but stuff that.
Well, I don't think I wouldn't say it withheld. I think it's just that we have not made a concerted enough.
And it's not been given saying this is it. Clunk, check what this is.
Because we are being redacted.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, a more concerted, deliberate, diligent, honest approach to it. If nothing more than for historical. So thank you very much. Was there another caller? Let's go to the phones. Good afternoon. Thanks for calling. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
I didn't know whether I was on the line or not.
Yes, sir.
Yes, you are.
On the air, I should say.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Floating like a bird. You're talking earlier on about